Ladies and gentlemen, make as much noise as you can for our CEO, Mark Bischof!
Hey. How's everybody doing? Well, I heard the best and the brightest were descending on Vegas here, and here you are. So welcome to Experience 2026. Yeah. Super excited for you to join us. We appreciate you taking the time from work and your families. This is my favorite time of the year, getting everybody together. We get off of the Zooms. We get off of the Hollywood squares, the two-dimensional world where they seem to be living in. And now we're all here. And so we've got the team at Medallia has done an amazing job. We just finished our year in January. And so we've been at it, strong close to the year. And now we're back at it. The scoreboard goes to 0, and the team has been working day and night, and we've put a program together that I think is going to knock your socks off. So, it's been a great year, and so thanks for making the trip, and we're looking forward to meeting with all of you very soon. Okay, so I want to thank our sponsors, and without the sponsors, we can't do this. Deloitte is our key, platinum sponsor here. My old alma mater, so once in, never out. So thanks, guys. The rest of our partners really do appreciate it, and our sponsors. It's a big deal for us. We're moving into heavy partner relationships. We had our partner summit yesterday, and I think we had over 200-300 people there. So that's something that we've been working with, and we really do appreciate our partners working with us to provide our customers with world-class experiences. So, we've been super busy last year on all fronts. We've been analyzing our own business, and we kind of shifted a little bit. We looked at it and said top to bottom, and we were not as customer-centric as I'd like to be and the rest of the management team. So we made a lot of changes. We made changes in organizational design processes, account coverage, incentives, all to basically get in front of you, make sure that our customers are getting the value. That is job number one for us, job number 1, 2, and 3. If we settle that and delight you guys, then all the rest kind of follows. So, it's all at the heart of creating that value. We've seen massive engagement with our customers. So we've reestablished one of the things when I first got here last year is like, hey, we haven't seen any executives from Medallia in a while. And so we basically, as a management team, we have been spending a lot of time with all of you, and happy to do so. I find it's the best part of my job. And, so we've been, reestablishing those relationships. I think they're as strong as ever. We've had, very frank and open conversations. And at the end of the day, we're aligning from the top to the bottom on all of our accounts to make sure that, we're moving in the right direction here for you. We've been modernizing platforms and programs all over the world. Again, making sure that you're getting value. We've been looking at your data analytical frameworks. Like some of these have been, a little old in the tooth. And so we've been, looking at this on our dime and making sure that you guys are getting this, the value. We've been improving text analytics. Fabrice will come up here later. A lot of the Gen AI features and plans and innovations that we've got really depend immensely on text analytics. And we've got some unbelievable expertise here, and we've been building out that capability. Very exciting stuff coming a little later. So we've been broadening our experience programs with expanded omni-channel use cases and data and signals to get you the value that you expect. And we've got lots of customers that are joining us in that journey. So we delivered on the AI innovation agenda that we talked about last year, and we're just getting started. But we've got basically, in the last 6 months, over 550 of the world's largest brands are now using our Frontline Ready AI. Intelligent summaries, root cause assist, smart response, themes with Gen AI. We're helping you solve your problems smarter, faster, and cheaper. So we've been helping the biggest businesses in the world for years, solving their biggest customer experience challenges. That's what we've always done. We've done it through surveys, we've done it through scores. Now we're talking about like the theme for this event and for the next year and years to come is like we are basically going to take and transform your experiences into business outcomes. That's how we're going to measure. This is everything we're doing is all about that. And so you're going to hear a lot about that in the keynotes, breakout sessions. Every time we come to your doorstep, we're going to be bringing that front and center. I keep hearing from very senior customers that, hey, you guys are the experts. You tell me what we need to be doing. So I'm here to tell you this is what you need to be doing. So let's take a global hospitality company as an example. Excuse me. To a hotel, the guest is a set of fragmented data points, right? So what does that mean? So to marketing, you're a loyalty member on an email list. To digital, you're a session ID on the website. To operations, you're room 412. To finance, you're a margin statistic. The problem isn't data. The problem is siloed journeys, technology, and departments within your four walls. So your customers are falling into the gaps. And so let's really examine this. I'm going to take you through an example here. A hospitality example where loyal customers are quietly canceling, and we don't know why. So meet David, our road warrior. He's the highest tier loyalty customer we've got. He's tired and he wants to see his wife and his kids, and he says, "Hey, let's go take a vacation." So he gets on the app, and he selects a suite, and he tries to redeem it using points, and there's a failure. And so all of a sudden, marketing sees a bounce, assume he's not interested, but he is interested. He's also pissed, and nobody knows why, right? Nobody knows about it. It just keeps going. So then he gets a little frustrated, waits a while. He's like, "I'm going to call support." Gets put on hold for 20 minutes. Goes through the whole rigmarole. The agent has no idea of the previous app failure that he's gotten, the frustration level. He gets this thing booked, hangs up. Then he realizes he needs to check in early. So I say, "Hey, we got these kids, and I don't want them hanging around the lobby, so you need to go make sure that happens." Gets back on the app, that fails. Finally arrives at the hotel annoyed, and it only gets worse. He tries to book a massage, and there's no room at the inn. He finally gets everybody to the room, and the air conditioning's broken. So now, you've got 3 departments, 3 failures. None of them are talking to one another. And a month later, he gets a survey, and at this point, he's like done. He's not taking the survey. Everybody at marketing and support and operations, they're looking at their NPS, and it hasn't changed. Yet, this customer is gone for life. This is how it happens. So let's replay that with Medallia as the connected platform. So we bring and we listen and bring feedback signals across that entire journey, bring it all together. We listen, analyze, and determine action. And then from a marketing and digital perspective, we're connecting these journeys and personas. Now they don't see a bounce, they see a high-value redemption failure. They fix that API immediately. So let's look at support. Before David even calls support, an AI chatbot proactively messages him to secure the room, the suite. He gets an early check-in and books him a massage. So now he's really happy. Operations, using our total experience profile, we've upgraded him proactively to an oceanfront room. Now mom is happy. When mom is happy, everybody's happy. So it's all about experience using the latest AI technology, getting into business transformation. So what just happened? We didn't just fix a bug. We didn't just repair an AC unit. We aligned the organization around revenue protection outcomes. CEOs kind of care about scores and sentiment, but they really care about impact and financial outcomes. Connecting your digital to support to ops. Now we saved his vacation, sure, but we also saved 20 grand in lifetime value and reduced service costs by 20%. That's just not great customer service. That's business transformation. That is the power of continuous improvement programs. You're going to hear a lot about continuous improvement programs over the next coming days and weeks and months. Okay, the hard truth here, David is one customer. Solving his problem is relatively easy. The issue is there's 20,000 Davids out there with the same problems. And so when you do the math, you got 20,000 in LTV, you got 20,000 customers having the same problem. That's a $400 million impact, potential impact to the business. That's all hands on deck. That's not just scores and surveys and that kind of thing. This is like everybody in the lines of business start looking at that and saying, we need a better answer. We need to pay attention to this. So today, a lot of companies are playing whack-a-mole. Each department is analyzing, taking action based on their part of that journey and their part of the silo. But as a business, you need to look at the materiality, prioritization, sequencing of all these issues, upstream and downstream from where you kind of are. You need to have connected experiences in departments to drive business outcomes. Customers don't care about your departments. To them, you are one brand. It's really time your technology acted like it. You need to embrace the change and understand how to make that happen. That starts here, that starts today. This event is all about taking those insights and moving into action, coming up with those business outcomes. So look forward to seeing you all here very, very soon over the next couple of days. We've got an action-packed agenda for you. And again, thanks for coming. Thanks for your business. And with that, I'm excited to hand it over to Sid Banerjee, our Chief Strategy Officer at Medallia, who will tell you about this future and the playbook, our playbook for transformation. Welcome, Sid, to the stage.
Thank you, Mark. All right, thank you very much, Mark, for that great introduction. And what I'd like to do is take the next 15 or so minutes and talk a little bit about how we translate that vision that Mark just described into a practical, actionable solution in organizations like all of yours. But to put a little bit of context, I think it's important to take a few minutes and just talk about how we got here and why where we got here, where we came from is going to help us figure out where we need to go as we evolve CX programs. If I click to the next slide here, I want to make a point here. Most of us grew up in CX when it was very much survey-led, right? Meaning you had to pull information from customers by asking them questions explicitly after a conversation or an interaction online or in a store and other things. But the world has changed dramatically over the last 25 years. I used AI, of course, Gemini and ChatGPT, and then I clicked to the source material to make sure I was getting the right information. But based on the market research I did a few weeks ago, it looks like the survey market, EFM, customer experience powered systems that are being used for customer analytics and customer improvement, that market's growing about 10% a year over the next few years. It wasn't that even 5-6 years ago. It was growing 2, 3, 4 times that. Now, if you look where companies are investing in transformation, it is in the automations that come from AI-powered interactions and AI-powered conversations and AI-powered automations in the actual back-end systems that power a lot of customer experiences. That market is growing about 35, as high as 40%, depending on who you look at from those numbers. And in the middle, there's actually a fair amount of transformation also happening in the conversational domain of contact centers, where we're creating these hybrid human and bot-powered chatbots and voice bots that are basically augmenting the way people interact in the contact center. That's growing about 20-25%. So if you're in CX today, and you're running your programs the same way they were being run 4 or 5 years ago, or even 2 or 3 years ago, you're probably not keeping pace with where companies are actually spending time and money and driving transformation. And it's worth rethinking how to move beyond what today is, in many organizations, a process of collecting and watching and distributing scores, to thinking of CX as a process of continuing to evolve and modernize and bring together the signals to drive business insights and, more importantly, business and experience transformation. It's about connecting all those silos and all those dots of information so that we can understand, and frankly, applying AI to better understand and better act on that information. Now, again, we all grew up in the age before all of this AI stuff. When I was in high school, after I went to classes, I would go to the local Wendy's near my high school. And I don't know if you remember, in Wendy's, they had those little colorful tables with pictures, and there was typically a bottle of ketchup, some salt and pepper, and an index card, and a little number 2 pencil. And that was customer experience when I was in high school. I'm not going to say when that was. And that is effectively what Borga and Amy, the founders of Medallia, said we can do better. And what they did is they took a transformative approach to say we need to figure out how to make these things online, we need to make them digital, we need to make them analyzable, we need to make them distributable so that surveys don't end up in the circular file, which basically means the garbage can, right? They actually be used to activate closed loop. That was revolutionary 25 years ago, okay? And it's still useful. I don't mean to say it's not useful in organizations, but it's not enough, right? Today, data is everywhere, right? It's basically in the calls, in the chats, in the digital sessions, increasingly in your organizations. It's going to be in agentic sessions, which are applications talking to each other. They're not going to be talking in language like English, but they will be talking through different types of signals and processes. And all of that information is the customer experience. We don't want to force all of that insight into a question, a single question. The ultimate question is no longer ultimate anymore. An NPS survey, a CSAT survey, is a good instrumentation, but it is not the detail that you need to drive and act on transformation. And so it's important to be constantly evolving, connecting all those dots into that understanding, that's what this picture is representing, of insight, experience, and understanding how customers are evolving as you're evolving your customer experiences through the use of all this technology. So lean into the change and lean into the insights and basically drive those insights that you pick up because you now have a much more holistic view back into your business so that they can continuously improve and continuously evolve. Because companies that do evolve are going to stay ahead. Companies that do not will have challenges, I think, in the next 10, 15 years, even the next 5 years. So let's talk a little bit about what connecting those dots is about. Well, loyalty is everywhere in those dots, in those signals that are coming into the modern enterprise. And those signals that we're talking about are calls, which have rich conversational nuance and information and features you can extract, chatbots and voice bots, which is a human talking to a bot, also language-based, but a lot of metadata because you typically know where that information, where that interaction came from and often where it's going. In location-based CX, even the traditional location survey for some of our more innovative customers today is being enhanced with geocode signals. So you can walk into certain large department stores, and even if you don't buy anything, you can trigger feedback, right? You can understand that this is a person that had a non-shopping event, which is still a feedback-worthy event. Digital sessions, of course, digital experience analytics, understanding how people click and move throughout their digital journeys, why they buy, why they abandon, where they get confused. That itself is qualitative feedback that's super important because constantly these digital journeys are being evolved and updated by the digital organizations in your business. And then finally, I mentioned agentic sessions. This is not something that we do today, but I can pretty much guarantee you that in the coming years, you're going to see AXA, Agentic Session Analytics, right? Which is analyzing how bots talk to each other and what they do and where they get right and where they get wrong, the customer journeys, because that's going to be something you want to continuously understand and improve as well. So you need to collect all of these signals and you need to put them together into a framework. Don't think about all these journeys in lots of different places and then say, my customer experience is, did the agent solve your problem, as Mark mentioned, right? We can't just ask that question. That doesn't get to anywhere near the level of understanding we need to know if all those millions of dollars your companies are spending are paying out in the right experiences and the right outcomes, right? It's really about taking the data, connecting it into a holistic view, right? And once you have that holistic view, understand what is good and what is bad, right? And that is an important measure, I think, that's really, really important when we think about customer journeys. So what is customer good and bad is? I was thinking when I was watching the Super Bowl, my wife is from Boston, that was a bad game. Sometimes bad is bad, okay? Now, if you're a Seattle fan, you probably have a different view. But I was watching the halftime show and also thinking, sometimes bad is good, right? I know it's an opinion, not everyone's gonna agree. But, you know, Lady Gaga, Bad Romance, great song. Breaking Bad, great TV show, right? But in CX, mostly bad is bad, okay? A bad journey produces a bad outcome, right? A bad experience typically has a bad financial impact to the business and pisses off the customer, right? And so our job is not just to score watch. Our job is to understand what's good and what's bad, and increase the good and decrease the bad, right? In journeys, there's not just the concept of making something good better or making something bad good. It's actually about eliminating the bad, right? A bad call is a call that should not have happened. A bad escalation from a chatbot to an IVR to an agent to someone filling out a complaint, there's a lot of bad there. What you want to do is go find the original interaction that didn't work and fix it so that it becomes good, and all those other bad demand interactions disappear. They just go poof. And companies save tons of money, and organizations develop reputations for quality, and customers develop more loyalty for the good, right? So to do that, we have to take all of those journey touch points. We have to extract features, which I'm showing here on this screen. Emotions, that's a feature, qualitatively good and bad, right? Issues, there are good issues, bad issues. Most of the issues are bad, but to the extent you understand what they are and you can fix them, if it's a product issue or a journey issue or a service quality issue, right? Effort markers, what's good is easy, what's bad is hard. Maximize the good, minimize the bad. And then also understand the quantitative measures that typically are kind of part of the metadata of experiences. Things that are long are generally bad, try to make them short, right? Things that are repetitive, generally bad. Make them get done right the first time. Those are the ways when you analyze the journeys at scale, when you apply traditional analytics and increasingly AI analytics, that's the focus we all ought to be thinking about when we instrument CX across our organizations. Ultimately, the best way to make bad good or bad go away is to map them to outcomes. So what is an outcome? Well, there's a lot of outcomes that typically the folks at the C-suite are always thinking about. I know my CFO here at Medallia, Baz, call out wherever you are, wants to make money and wants to grow the business. So anything that can drive revenue and growth, that's good, because it ultimately gives you the power, the capability to invest, to grow, to differentiate, to become a better company. You also want to get rid of inefficiency, right? Take away the long, take away the hard, take away the repetitive. That saves money, and it actually drives, again, a company's ability to improve the experience for the customer and also to drive more financial benefit to the business so that it continues to evolve and innovate. And then the last area I would say is reducing risk. Risk is about identifying markers that can cause financial risk, you waste money, operational risk, things go wrong and they cost you money, like a bad product that needs to be returned or bad service experience that requires multiple escalations. And then finally, regulatory risk. Regulatory risk is anything that happens in your business that, if unresolved, could rise to the level of a regulatory complaint, a regulatory consent order, or a regulatory fine. And in some large businesses, those fines can add up to tens, hundreds of millions of dollars. So also that's financial exposure. And so to the extent that you tap into the signals and you can find the revenue markers, the efficiency markers, the risk markers, and you do it not in a point session, one at a time, but you do it across the journey, you can drive efficiencies across everything. And you can fix things where they happen, and you can drive outcomes that you want that basically benefit you and your C-suite. And to the extent that your C-suite sees CX programs are about better outcomes, they will also invest in helping you and us to modernize those programs as the rest of the company is transforming. So if I leave you with one comment on all of this, it is we are more than survey people, right? We have to be. We cannot be CX practitioners in the 21st century by just relying mostly on surveys, right? We have to be connectors, which means we connect the dots across the organization and across the signals and across the customer journeys. We have to be conductors. We have to orchestrate better experiences, better journeys, and change in our organization. We have to be consultants to the rest of the company to help them figure out how information, the valuable information we have, makes their jobs better and makes their customer experiences better. We have to be an architect. We have to think about the technology that we should be bringing into CX, just as the rest of the company is thinking about the technology and how they architect it to drive that frontline, to drive that web, to drive that digital, to drive that conversational technology that is in the system in the business now that wasn't there 5 years ago. And then finally, when we do all those things together, we have to be business transformation agents. We have to be business changers, where we create a culture of continuous communication, continuous engagement, and ultimately continuous improvement of experiences, because we see everything, right? When we architect these kinds of solutions, we see the entire journey in ways that a lot of the business lines do not. It comes down to really three things: people, technology, and process and organization. When we think of CX as driving awareness of all of this technology and process and improvement, if we have the right people, we have the right technology, and we work with process and mindfulness and deliberateness to drive process and organization back out to the business, that's when we drive high-performance CX programs. Now, I'm going to start with people. Step one is thinking about it. You and CX experts inside your organizations and partners that you work with and technology vendors like Medallia and others that you engage with understand the data. We know how to collect it. We know how to analyze it. But we have to continuously be asking questions about, are we doing it the right way? Is something changing in the business? We have to understand how to get to root cause, using AI, not just in the way that we interact with customers, employees, but the way we analyze and understand things. And Fabrice is going to show you some pretty cool stuff that we've added to our products over the last 12 months about doing that. Okay, and when we do that, we become essentially the nucleus, right? The energy that drives the atomic change inside our organizations. We help improve the contact center. We help improve digital interactions and journeys. We help modernize lines of business as they move from traditional to AI-powered experiences in their front lines or in their operations parts of the business. And we also improve brand perceptions, brand capabilities, product capabilities, because feedback that comes through CX, particularly when it's rich, is actually useful to be able to recommend how to improve products and brand experiences. And one company that's really driving that kind of ecosystem within their organization is Bank of America. Their experience team operates widely across many lines of business, from the digital, the contact center, journey teams, both in the physical and the online, to drive transformation, not just scores. And they're led by a person that I'm excited to bring on the stage to tell us more. I'd like to welcome Jason Renteria, the SVP of Client Experience and the Client Experience Executive at Bank of America. So let's please give Jason a warm welcome. Thank you, Jason. Thank you very much. All right, so Jason, tell me a little bit about you and your role within the bank, if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, thanks, Sid, first for the warm welcome. I'm always happy to talk about Bank of America with you and maybe a few friends. But I lead enterprise client experience, client feedback, and insights for the consumer bank. And my team runs Bank of America Voices, which is our always-on platform where we're listening to clients hundreds of millions of times every single year. We support 60,000 frontline teammates, and really my focus is to put client listening at the forefront of everything we do so that we can know and understand, anticipate our client needs, and actually take action on that. But my focus is really putting client feedback in the places where we make decisions. You know, those decisions are all over the place with a company our size. It's certainly with the front line, it's with our product owners, it's with our journey teams, and our executives want to know what clients want and need as well. So,
very good, very good. Can you talk a little about how you built the program, and how does it support such scale within an organization so big as B of A?
Yeah, I get that question a lot because we do operate at a very large scale.
Yeah.
Billions of interactions every year. We service nearly 70 million clients. And so at our scale, client experience only works if it's deeply embedded into how we run the business. Mm-hmm. It cannot be a side program. It just doesn't work. So from the top down, we have a shared purpose, and I think that's one of the things that makes it run, is having the executive sponsorship. But our purpose is to help make clients' financial lives better through the power of every interaction. So everything that we do is client-centric, but I think what that does is it gives our employees permission and empowers them to pick up the phone. We don't have to say to each other, hey, is client experience a priority? We know it. It gives us permission to work together, and it makes client experience everybody's job. So even though I'm on a client experience team, everybody plays, everybody wins. So the other thing that happens is we've made clear investments into making it work. Technology investments internal, we have a dedicated technology team. The leader of it is here today. We also have made investments with Medallia, and that relationship is going almost a decade now. We've also made investments into dedicated subject matter experts. So across the organization, we have teams that work on client experience and own the client feedback, own the action plans, and they know their spaces better than anybody, and they have a lot of passion around it, and that is key because there's a sense of ownership around that, and it all rolls up to the shared purpose. So again, client experience only works when it's part of how we run our business. Another thing I would say that I've learned along the way when it comes to scaling up, scaling does not come from more dashboards, more reports. I think we've built hundreds of dashboards, hundreds of reports. And what it really comes down to is clear ownership, strong relationships across the organization that we invest a lot into, and shared accountability into that higher purpose.
Yeah, we violently agree that CX programs are not defined by the number of dashboards. I mean, wouldn't it be great if you could just ask a question to your CX application and it would just answer it for you? Hold my beer. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. So tell me a little bit about the structure. Again, we talked about the size and the people, but how have you involved that kind of structure to innovate your CX programs from both the technology and just generally kind of a people perspective?
Yeah, we've done a lot of growth and learning along the way. When we first started, we started with 6 touch points, so 6 survey programs.
Right.
We're getting ready to launch number 53. So essentially, we're listening wherever clients interact with us. And in the center of that is digital. Last year, we had 4 billion logins into our digital spaces. And Erica, as our clients are getting more familiar with Erica, since we've launched that in 2018, we've had 3 billion interactions with Erica. And what that tells us is very, very important because it tells us that our clients are getting more comfortable with using Erica. And as they get more comfortable with using Erica, it fits not only our high-tech, high-touch strategy, but it also opens the door for a safe space for us to listen and also have a two-way dialogue. So you may not know this, but for everybody who's banking with Bank of America, you can actually go to Erica today, say leave feedback, and it will flow into our client experience program, into our Medallia dashboards.
We are linked. We can get feedback from Erica.
So we're doubling down on Erica, and we're working on now making it a two-way so that Erica understands when and how to ask for feedback based on recent interactions.
Yeah. I like to say, you can't have Bank of America anymore. America without Erica.
That's right.
AI is not the strategy, it enables the strategy, basically. Yeah. So let's talk about AI generally. Where do you see AI and digital tools influencing your CX, from a customer and even an employee perspective?
Yeah, AI is certainly a focal point for us, as it is for, I think, just about everybody right now. But at Bank of America, AI is not the strategy. AI enables the strategy.
Right.
And if we can use AI well, it's going to give our employees superpowers. It's going to take away the no-joy work and free them up to focus on the client. So they can be more equipped to help with complex needs, give more personalized advice, make that human connection. And those are the things that clients really want. Right. They don't want us fumbling around looking for procedures. They don't want those types of things. And so the same way we are investing into Erica as a way to automate for our clients, we're also investing in Erica Assist, which is the digital assistant for our employees. And so our teams will have their own guided assistant, which enables them to deliver for the client, increase client satisfaction, gain efficiency. But what's critical about AI is it has to be trustworthy. I think we acknowledge that. I think everybody does. And so financial decisions, when clients interact with the bank, financial decisions are deeply personal. And so AI needs to be transparent. Our clients want to know how we're using it. It needs to be secure. And it needs to be responsible.
Right.
So our goal is to be able to use AI, client feedback, and human judgment, and have them all work together. And then you don't just get efficiency, you actually get better experiences, and you ultimately build trust, which is what our goal is. Yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. You touched on one thing I want to just kind of pull out of your last comments, which is that you're using or building out Erica Assist to actually help your employees use AI to do a better job supporting their customers. And there's another interesting sort of kind of subtext to that, which is as you change the employee experiences, collecting employee feedback also is a really valuable way of understanding how employees are adjusting to change, and that feedback helps to improve the way employees work as well. So experience transformation doesn't just happen at the customer level, it happens at the employee level too.
Absolutely.
And a big part of that is using those signals to help improve employee experience too.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much, Jason. I really appreciate our talk, and great insights. All right, so let's talk about step 2 now, which is the technology. Applying the technology to connect, collect, analyze, and then drive insights and actions, right? This is where you move from a lot of static, often siloed systems of collection like surveys to really creating a more always-on, operationally kind of robust collection and analytics and activation architecture. And it's where, to Jason's point, you move away from static dashboards to dynamic insights, dynamic recommendations, and increasingly, those recommendations get automated in the way that they flow back to systems and processes inside your organization, right? It's really about moving from asking to operating, right? Experience is no longer just about people in the middle, but people driving change, right? So when we do that, we can actually get better connection, we can actually drive better understanding, and we can drive transformation of organizations to get to those good outcomes, understand the bad outcomes, and reduce them or improve them so that they become shorter and more efficient and ultimately drive better business outcomes, right? A good organization that's actually doing that is CIBC. CIBC is actually working across a wide range of groups in the organization, their organization, and they've been winning awards over the last few years. Forrester's Customer Obsessed Enterprise Award in 2025, Digital Banker's Best Use of AI Award. They've got over 50 programs across the organization. They push information out to over 1 million logins a year from thousands of users across the bank. And they're bringing in signals and connecting those insights, not just back to people and to process, but to other operational systems, so that information is tightly linked and driving continuous and kind of always-on situational awareness. And they have a truly organization-wide focus. They use technology as the connective glue that really drives improvement to contact centers, banking centers, their digital journeys, their product areas from cards to consumer banking, business banking, digital banking, and even their digital bank division, Simply. And they have also been successful because they have a very, much as Jason described, very tight, coordinated group of people that work together across the different business functions to set priorities, make sure the investments are aligned to those priorities, and essentially drive business outcomes that matter from the top of the company down to the lowest level employee. I'm not going to introduce them here because they actually are speaking in a couple of sessions over the next day or so, both here on the main stage and in a breakout session. But I encourage you to attend that and learn more about how they're using people and technology to drive transformation and change. All right, the last playbook component I want to talk about is process and organization. So really the question of process is how do you create both the rules but also the culture of activation to drive change in your organization? And also, how do you organize? What organizational constructs tend to be best at creating scale, whether your business is small or as large as CIBC or B of A? Typically, it starts with really 3 components. And again, you will right-size these components depending on the size of your organization. And it's not rocket science. The first is, it's important to have an executive sponsor. Could be a CXO, it could be customer experience leaders or SVPs, it could be line of business owners that say, this is important to the way we do business. And they provide the oversight, often the sponsorship, and increasingly they lobby for or own the funding to really kind of help you modernize the way you think about CX. The second pillar is to drive the process of using information and collaborating across that central function to the specific stakeholders that are going to get benefit. And again, it's not just about collecting data and pushing it out in dashboards. It's about truly being a consultative, trusted partner to the lines of business and being aligned to delivering insights and actions and data that align to optimization, business outcomes, and ultimately reducing risk and increasing the revenue and the performance of those organizations. So you align on the business outcomes, not just on the traditional kind of limited bandwidth scores that might have been how we'd think about CX 5 or 10 years ago. And then the last piece is frontline enablement and empowerment. And that's about making the information consumable by the people in the brick and mortar locations, in the contact centers, right? In the frontline folks at, complex journey environments like insurance processing or hospitality, where there's literally, dozens of people that touch a customer through a journey in the front lines. And then, of course, because of all the CX transformation happening in the digital and the mobile world, making sure that that information is continuously feeding back to understand what's working, what's not working, what's returning, what's not returning value. What I'd like to do to kind of provide a little bit more kind of color to all this is introduce a woman who has seen a lot of transformation programs at Accenture, where she leads a practice. I'd like to welcome Amy Palan, who is the Senior Managing Director at Accenture Song. Hello, hello.
How are you?
Hello, Amy.
Good
How
to
are
see you. Good,
Good
good.
to see you.
Thank you.
So, Amy, tell us a little bit about your role at Accenture as a quick introduction. Please.
Yes, so at Accenture, I've got responsibility for what we call our Song business. And Song, for those of you that don't know, is essentially our customer practice. So all things marketing, sales, service, customer experience. And essentially what we're helping our clients do is really focus on strategy, design, and implementation of their front office reinvention. So that's why our partnership with technology platforms like Medallia are so important, so we can help our clients to realize the value that they can get from their customer and front office transformation programs.
Fantastic, fantastic. So I know at Accenture you have really, a window, a bird's eye view to a lot of transformation programs across companies, in every industry, public and private sector. Can you give us maybe some of the biggest observations that you have in how do organizations evolve CX in the ways that we're talking about it? What works from an organization or operating model perspective?
Yeah, I'll start by telling you all, and I think this is something that everybody can appreciate, and that is the pace of change now is faster than it's ever been before because of the technology advancements and what's happening with AI and the evolution that we're in right now. We're all customers, we're all consumers of different products and services, and I can tell you, what we experience is elevating the bar and sort of resetting the bar for our own expectations. I like to use an example of the Meta Ray-Ban glasses. I don't know how many people have the glasses, but I bought those a couple months ago, and I recently used them at an art festival where I was looking at an exhibit, and the glasses were transcribing what I was seeing. So it fundamentally changed the way that I want to experience a museum. Another example I like to give is Waymo, and I'm sure a lot of people have now ridden around in a Waymo. And the thing that really struck me was you can set your preferences before you actually get in the car. You can be in an environment where you don't have to engage with the driver, and there's a degree of privacy there.
It even configures your Spotify. It plays the music you want to hear.
Absolutely, absolutely. You can customize it, and you're sort of hearing what you want to hear from the get-go. But also the safety element. I know that there's a lot of there was a lot of controversy on is it safe to be in a car without a driver? And my experience was the technology allows detection of obstacles in a road sooner than a human might experience that. And so the impact is much more gentle and what I found to be safe. So just a few examples of what we're all seeing as customers. What I can also say is the transformation fatigue and the change fatigue that our clients are experiencing is real. There's a lot of investment that's gone into transformation programs to build technology and to really invest in sort of the shiny new object or the Ferrari, as we like to say.
Right.
But without the transformation of the culture and the people and the process, like you touched on, the technology can only take you so far. And so it's imperative that we are looking at talent and culture, we're looking at operating model and governance, and we're also looking at new ways to measure performance and measure impact as a result of what the technology is empowering CX organizations and companies overall in front office transformation to accomplish.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. If you were to give this audience advice on sort of the 3 things that you should really strive to get right as you think about CX transformation, what would those be?
The first thing I would say is lead with outcomes, not experiments. Every dollar invested is an opportunity to drive revenue and really deliver a better customer experience. The second thing I would say is empower your people at pace. There's a need to ensure all of our people are digitally fluent and know what to do with the technology that we're building. And then I would say put agility into the core. So we want to use, cloud-native composable solutions that allow you to embrace disruption like the AI disruption that's happening now. And just on that point too, we're seeing a lot of companies sort of experiment with how they think about AI and technology. And so a couple of scenarios are emerging in that regard. We're seeing what's called sort of the traditional scenario where there is a lot of piloting of use cases and thinking about how do I apply advanced technology and AI. We're seeing a second scenario, which is more about evolution and having human labor and agents and AI work together to drive more efficiency and scale. And then we're seeing what's called a reinvention scenario where you're really putting AI into the core of both the architecture and the operations. So we're really trying to push, our clients and the thinking that our clients have into more of that reinvention scenario.
That makes sense. And when you do that, and you do that right, you empower your employees, your customers feel heard. Overall, you end up with the right outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's an example, quickly that we did together, Accenture and Medallia, where it was a large contact center transformation, and the issue that leadership was solving for was what they thought that the agents weren't moving fast enough to respond to customers, when in fact what the issue was is that customers didn't feel heard. And so together, we, Accenture and Medallia, predicted NPS across the entire base, not just the survey respondents, and we were able to build AI into the contact center for next best action for the agents. And what happened was, in the end, customers felt heard, agents felt empowered with the technology, and overall satisfaction went dramatically up.
Yeah, and I want to pull the thread on this topic because I think it's an important, interesting kind of auxiliary value of working together with partners like Accenture. We collect a lot of signals, but oftentimes to really infer for all the cohort of people that don't give us those signals, there's value in kind of using this kind of predictive or almost synthetic analysis to bring in operational data. Say, I see people that have good or bad experiences. Let's figure out the universe of everybody else that I should be thinking about. And that's when you drive true transformation at scale.
Got it.
Absolutely. All right, well, thank you very much, Amy, for your comments.
Appreciate
Very
it. Thank
provocative.
you.
I appreciate it. Take care. All right, so let's recap before I yield the stage to my colleague, Fabrice. I think it's important for everybody to think about where we are and where we want to go, but also really where this market, this business of CX is going. We have a choice. We can, lead with the same stuff we've always done, right? We can, in some cases maybe, be careful how I say this. We can just buy up the market, right? Or we can innovate, we can invest, we can drive transformation, we can use technology in the way that technology is going to be used across all of our organizations, and we can be a connector across the organization. In short, we want to be, I think, change makers in the way that organizations think about experience and experience management and experience transformation. So if you ask yourself, what what can you do to kind of change the paradigm a bit in your organizations? What are the 3 questions you might want to ask yourself now and after you leave Las Vegas this week? The first one might be, who should I talk to, and how am I going to understand the outcomes that I want to actually really focus my experience programs on? What are that 1 or 2 outcomes that are going to really take my experience game up to the next level, right? Second question I would ask is, who will benefit, right? And can I align myself with a person or a department that sees value in changing the way we think about experience to get disruptive, positive benefit from this new way of thinking about customer experience? And then finally, I would say, how do we actually get started? Find that person and start that conversation. Who is that person in your organization? You know, Jason was talking about at B of A that they have a whole team that thinks about experience. I checked our attendee list. They have over 20 people here. They're not all CX people. There are some of those line of business folks here because they know how important CX is to drive transformation in their business. They benefit from talking to all of you. They benefit from learning about what we're doing technologically and from an innovation perspective. There are probably people in your organization that if you can start that conversation, you can create all kinds of virtuous things that will happen over the next months and years. Last thing I'll just say is, how do we fit in as Medallia? We have built a capability that has been, over the last 20 plus years, one of the most enterprise scale, operationally robust systems for collecting and distributing information at scale in small, medium, and large organizations. That's not going to change. As we evolve the way we collect and analyze information, as you see AI, you know, in the collection, in the analysis, in the recommendations, and even in the integrations, it's still going to be designed and built for scale, right? The insights and the actions are designed to be pushed out to the front line, from the top of the business to the bottom of the business. That's not going to change either. But what you see coming into those systems, how you use it, that's going to radically change because the technology allows us to make it easier to get information into the hands and into the systems that drive impact. And the technology, hopefully you'll come away from this week realizing that we are not standing still. There's continuous investment. It's a big part of our business model, is radically change the way our product works because we have to, because this market is so dynamic right now. And then finally, we are not here to do this without you. A big part of our ideas, a lot of what you're going to hear in the next presentation, are ideas that came from you. And we continue to value the ideas, the feedback, the criticisms, maybe the threats, probably not the threats. We like everything but the threats. But they allow us to be co-creators. They allow us to innovate at every step of the way with what's happening in your world. So we want to continue to be that partner as we enter, I think, a very dynamic period in this industry. So with that, I would like to introduce Fabrice Martin, our Chief Product Officer, to tell you a little bit more about what we've been doing with our product over the last few months and where we're going. Thank you. Boom. All right, man.
Thank you.
Hold my beer.
All right, I don't want my face up there anymore. How's everybody going? Good? Excited to hear about the roadmap? I want to thank Sid. Really delighted to be here at Experience 26. You have all been challenged to step up as the change makers and the heroes at your organizations. It's a bold mission, and I think there's no better place to start than right here in Las Vegas, a city built by those who dared to dream big and bet on a better future. But here is the reality. Even the greatest heroes need the right gear. Batman doesn't show up to a fight with just his mask, right? He brings the Batmobile, his utility belt, and all sorts of tech that make the impossible look easy. And you should not have to tackle the future of experience with yesterday's tools. To be a change maker, you need tools that will give you the edge. That's exactly what we've built, and I'm excited to tell you all about it. In the 12 months since I was here on this very stage, we have made incredible progress. In the past year, for example, we have processed 4.1 billion feedback signals. That's about a 30% increase year over year. We also launched, as you heard from Mark, several Gen AI features, and we have had incredible adoption. Just a few months, we went from 0 to more than 550 brands, the best brands in the world, including all of you, using those features and getting incredible value. And as a result, we have seen a huge 3x increase in AI processing requests in our Experience Cloud, from right under 1 billion to greater than 3 billion in less than a year. This really makes me incredibly proud, but we're not resting on our laurels. As you implement the CX transformation playbook, the one that Sid just mentioned, we know you're going to need enterprise operationalization and scale, and those are only going to grow, and we are anticipating those needs. Our awesome architects and engineers, some of them are right here, have been really hard at work. And thanks to their efforts this year, you will be able to link signals to 5 times more people, products, and other entities, enabling secure, enterprise-scale signal operationalization and insights. And not only that, processing throughput in our Experience Cloud is going to be 10 times faster, which means faster time to insights and faster time to action. And our progress extends far beyond enterprise-grade performance and scale improvements. In the past year alone, we have released dozens of innovations. As Sid mentioned, many, if not all of them, directly as a result of your feedback. And those include some real game changers, such as the Frontline Ready AI features that we announced right here at Experience 1 year ago. All of them are generally available and deliver incredible value. Take Sekizui House, for example, who told us that thanks to Smart Response, we moved from a 35% response rate to nearly 90% without adding headcount. This isn't just efficiency, it's a fundamental shift in our operating model. They also told us that with Root Cause Assist, we stopped sinking hours into analyzing reports and started investing that time into solving problems. Exactly what Sid mentioned to you, right? Or our friends right here in Las Vegas at the Venetian, they told us that the math is very simple. We are delivering 25% more output with 25% less investment. We did not just meet the business case with Smart Response, we exceeded it while maintaining incredibly high quality. And finally, our friends at United Rentals, who slashed deep dive analysis from a full day per region to just under 2 hours by applying things with Gen AI across their 26 regions. That is a massive gain in productivity. I want to give them all a hand for being early adopters. Thank you. And not only that, but they have seen alerts handled 6 hours faster on average and increased data visibility from the front line to the C-suite. As you can see, the value is proven and the results are real. All of these leaders and others are driving real impact in their business. And to hear exactly how they did it, don't take it from me. Join them at the Frontline Ready AI and Lessons Learned panels later today. Now it is your turn. Be the change maker your organization needs. Put Frontline Ready AI to work for you and start driving this same transformation for your business. Okay. So far, we have talked about incredible innovation that is already available to you. Now let's turn our attention to some really exciting new functionality that we will be releasing in the coming months. Starting with the expansion of our Frontline Ready AI capabilities to new markets. I'm excited to share that in addition to English and Spanish, which are already available, Root Cause Assist, intelligent summaries for text analytics and conversational data, and Smart Response are now available natively in French and in German. This gives your global teams the same AI-powered edge to act faster and lead smarter in their local markets. Next up, let's talk about account profiles. In B2B or business to business, you are not just managing individuals, you're really managing highly complex relationships. And our new account profiles bring the power of the total experience profile, which you already know, to the account level, giving you a single unified source of truth and account health for every business you serve. It is the intelligence your teams need to stop guessing and start acting on the insights that drive retention and growth. And we also have some fantastic updates to action plans. We all know that insights are only as good as the actions they trigger. And to make business transformation as simple as 1, 2, 3, we have completely overhauled how you move from data to results. Your step 1, now you can launch an action plan the second you see a shift in your reporting, directly from the report. Whether it's a specific score, a topic, or an emerging theme, you do it directly from the report, and that ensures that that key insight is automatically tied to the plan. Your step 2, instantly populate your plan with clear steps and share it with your team. Very easy, button click away. You now have one centralized hub to track every move in real time. And your step 3, prove the impact of your action plan as it unfolds. You can finally see a clear line of sight between the actions your teams take and the actual impact they have on the business. That is how we drive business transformation. You no longer have to wonder if your efforts are working. You'll have the proof right in front of you. Okay, now let's talk about a topic that is near and dear to my heart. That's text analytics. It is really at the core of Medallia's platform because it is the only way to make sense of the massive amounts of unstructured data your customers share every day. You heard it from Mark, you heard it from Sid, you heard it from everybody. It's where the raw feedback is transformed into the intelligence that fuels every action that you take. But the problem here is that language isn't static, right? The way your customers talk, the issues they care about change all the time. And to stay ahead, your analytics cannot be based on a model that is frozen in time. You need an engine that is finely tuned and always up to date to ensure your decisions are based on what's happening right now. And that's why I'm super proud to announce Smart Topic Builder. It is an AI-powered tool that makes keeping your text analytics models sharp, easier, and faster than ever. Let's take a look at Smart Topic Builder in action for a text analytics administrator at Diamond Bank, a global financial services company. I'm going to play the role of the system administrator. So Diamond Bank has been using Medallia across CX and contact center use cases and just onboarded new digital channels. Usually, as the admin, I would have to scan through hundreds, if not thousands of comments just to figure things out. But with Smart Topic Builder, it's one click. All I need to do is click Discover Topics with AI. There you go, top right. And to kick off topic discovery, I'm going to provide some guidance. This is generative AI. I'm going to give some context on the use case. I'm going to select the fields that contain the feedback for that digital program. And that's it. I'm just going to click Submit. Very quickly, Smart Topic Builder comes back with a series of suggested topics, together with a very detailed rationale. That's what you see on the right side. Example comments, and even keywords to include for each one of the suggestions. Behind the scenes, what happened is that to get these suggestions, Smart Topic Builder used machine learning to identify key concepts and a large language model to determine exactly which themes should become new topics. Think of it as a little bit as our new themes with Gen AI feature behind the scenes, figuring out those topics for you. And not only that, but it is trained on Medallia's best practices. So it intelligently expands your models while staying perfectly aligned with your existing hierarchies, not going to mess with it. All I have to do at this point is accept or reject the suggestion. In this case, I'm going to accept, and that's it. The new topic is now added in draft mode into the hierarchy. Now, let's take a look at the details for our new topic. That's in a different screen. Because it's brand new, no rules have yet been created for this topic. So traditionally, once you're on this screen, it would have taken you quite a bit of work and time, writing all the Boolean search logic to capture the data correctly. Well, not anymore. Because Smart Topic Builder found the topic, it has all the context it needs, and it will use generative AI to create everything for me. All I have to do is click on Generate Rules with AI. Easy. It really is very easy. Smart Topic Builder does everything for me. It writes the complex Boolean logic, it adds the slang, and it even handles the misspellings. What used to take hours of trial and error, as you saw, now takes mere seconds. And the best part is that I can quickly verify the work and get a sense of its accuracy. To do this, I click on the top right, Evaluate Comments with AI. The system goes ahead and samples real comments, tests the new rule, and gives me an 85% score at this point, right? 85% precision score. I have the ability to refine it further if I want, but even now, I can publish this new topic with total confidence. As you saw, in minutes, literally minutes, I was able to identify new topics our customers care about, build the tracking rules, and verify their accuracy. And now, that insight is live and available to every user across our organization. And you just heard it from Jason, Bank of America has 60,000 frontline users, right? It's that quick to enable those 60,000 with a new insight. Thanks to Smart Topic Builder, what used to take days now takes minutes. Incredible, right? Very excited. Thank you. Okay. You can tell that we hear you when you tell me text analytics are difficult, right? This is the response. We listen, we understand, and we act. Okay. We have made it easier than ever to fine-tune your engine. But now let's talk about the real game changer, which is how are you going to interact with those insights in order to turn data to insight and insight into action faster and easier than ever before. We have spent recent development cycles building the most powerful suite of frontline-ready AI features in the industry. You saw it, you saw the testimonials. You have seen the impact of root cause assist, intelligent summaries, things with Gen AI. And individually, these features are high-fidelity, high-value tools. But we didn't set out to just build a list of tools and a list of features, right? What we set out to do is to build an entirely new way to interact with your data. Every one of these innovations has been leading to this, a true conversational reporting and insights experience. This is really the culmination of our vision, a game changer that doesn't just change how you use Medallia, but how our industry transforms insights into business impact. And today, I'm incredibly excited to announce Insights Assistant. Insights Assistant is Medallia's conversational AI agent, and it empowers every user, from executives to the CX Insights team to the frontline, to perform sophisticated ad hoc data exploration without any need for technical expertise or prior training in analytics. And to see Insights Assistant in action, I'd love to invite Joanna, who heads our reporting and analytics product team. Welcome, Joanna.
Thanks, Fabrice. Thanks, Fabrice. Really excited to show everyone what we've been working on. Let's go ahead and pull this up. This is Insights Assistant. For today, I'm going to play the role of an insights analyst from a global luxury hospitality brand. So this has been a typical Wednesday morning for me and my team. We received a notification that there's been an increase in complaints about cleanliness at our properties, and I already have multiple executives pinging me to ask why. We've all been there with people like Fabrice lighting up your Slack at 6 a.m. asking what's going on.
Sorry.
That's okay. Usually, this type of request results in a scramble, digging through data and various reports, but this Wednesday is different because I have Insights Assistant. Now, all I have to do is ask, what's going on with cleanliness at our properties? So, what's going to happen here is that Insights Assistant is interpreting the intent behind my question. It's searching through my data in Medallia to grab the different elements that it needs to perform data analysis and answer my question. Then it's going to summarize the results. Very quickly, I'm able to get a comprehensive summarized view of this issue. We can see impact on key metrics like NPS, a clear description of the issue with specific actionable themes. And if I scroll down a little bit, I can see the supporting data used to answer this question. And I can even see a summary of customer recommendations.
Customer recommendations, wow, this is great. But Joanna, how do I know that we can trust this answer?
Great question, Fabrice. Traceability and transparency of answers has been a critical requirement throughout our development. Every single answer from Insights Assistant is backed by real data. And what this means is that with every response, we include direct links to the data used to answer the question, and we expose our work with every response, as we can see in these inline reporting modules. All right. Now that we know what's going on, I need to know which properties are most affected by this issue. So I'll ask, which properties are most impacted by this cleanliness issue? So in addition to tracking trends and key themes within text data, Medallia also knows our operational structure. So this answer is going to direct me to the exact parts of the business that most need the attention. All right, what we see here is a list of properties ranked on negative experience. One thing here, because Insights Assistant is backed or built on top of Medallia reporting, these answers are based on a complete population of data. What that means is that we're seeing exact counts and exact calculations.
Built on top of Medallia reporting, it means it's robust and scalable. Let me ask you one more thing. Another important characteristic of Medallia, we heard it from Jason again, is our support for very large organizations with thousands or tens of thousands of users and complex, constantly changing organization hierarchies. Is that also part of Insights Assistant?
I'm so glad that you asked. It is 100%. Ensuring support for the wide variety of users and roles that's typical of our customer base was another critical requirement for Insights Assistant. Responses will respect a user's data access and their role permissions. The questions that I just asked were in context of an analyst who has global data access within our program. If we were to take that exact same question from the perspective of a property GM, we should see a personalized response based on their permissions. Let me show you. Let me go ahead and scroll up here so that we can switch roles. I'm going to go ahead and switch from the analyst over to a general manager. All right. And I'm going to hop back over into Insights Assistant. OK, great. And I'm going to ask that same question about cleanliness. All right, what's going on with cleanliness? So I've asked the same question, but from the point of view of a GM instead of an analyst. And what we'll see in a second is that the answer will actually take that point of view into account. Because the GM has different permissions from other roles, Insights Assistant is going to have a different scope of data to search through and analyze as it answers the question. And take a look at the difference. Because the results are focused on my property, I see personalized response that highlights specific recent examples and even references property-specific metadata like room numbers.
So it respects permissions automatically. No new configuration needed?
That's right. It respects your existing role-based reporting configurations out of the box.
That's impressive. And how about data? Does it work with any type of signal?
Insights Assistant can look at any data in Medallia. You could ask, how do my customers talk about cleanliness with regard to competitive properties? Or I could ask, is this issue also being discussed in contact center channels? And I will get this same level of instant analysis. And I can even ask these questions directly from the Medallia mobile app. Perfect for those 6 a.m. meetings or messages.
Wow, available in Medallia Mobile. That's dangerous. I cannot wait to see that.
Then you'll have to come find us at the Product Hub, where we'll be running a live demo of Insights Assistant right after the keynote.
I'll be there. OK, this is incredible. As you saw it, in less than 4 minutes, we saw an analyst diagnose a global issue and a GM find a local solution, all using natural language. No training required, no tickets filed, just answers. I cannot wait to get Insights Assistant into everybody's hands. Thank you, Joanna.
Thanks, Fabrice.
From results-oriented action planning and expert-grade topic building to the groundbreaking Insights Assistant, the innovation we've shared today represents a new standard for our industry. But these aren't just standalone updates. They are also the foundation for what comes next. We are moving towards a future where AI doesn't just provide data. It really acts as a partner. And it's a future that is fully agentic and entirely conversational. And to bring this vision to life, let's look at 3 people whose worlds are about to change. Starting with the experienced professional. As you saw, her world has already been transformed by Insights Assistant, where the most critical answers are now just a conversation away. But we will be taking her much further very soon. She won't just get answers, she will get strategic recommendations on exactly how to solve her toughest business challenges. And by the way, these are not going to be just guesses. These are insights built on the proven success of past action plans and their actual outcomes. And not only that, the friction of execution will quickly dissipate and disappear. Fully automated action plans will become a natural extension of her conversation. and working in tandem with proactive alerts that keep her entire operation under control. All of that is functionality that already exists in the platform. We will just be tying it together. This will be a true partnership between the experienced professional and Medallia AI, working together to drive a new era of business transformation. Next, let's look at the experienced program administrator. Smart Topic Builder already has revolutionized his workflow, taking the heavy lifting out of model creation and tuning and handing him back days of his time. But that was just the beginning. Soon, he will command his entire ecosystem through a conversational interface. Instead of navigating 1,000 screens to configure a program, he'll simply provide the objective. And behind the scenes, a fleet of intelligent agents will spring into action, automatically building the objects and configurations needed to bring that program to life. And these programs will be built to an enterprise standard from the get-go. They will be rooted in decades of Medallia best practices and proven industry expertise, ensuring that every data flow and report is professionally optimized from day one. They will include organization-wide reporting and data collection from all the relevant sources, all an instruction away, as well as all the necessary enterprise guardrails and program monitoring. This will soon be the end of manual configuration and fundamentally accelerate enterprise agility, allowing experienced program administrators to move at the speed of their ideas. It's going to be an incredible advancement. And finally, let's consider the customer. We are moving towards a world where customer experience will be a continuous, personalized conversation that stays with the customer just wherever they go. Instead of only reacting to specific requests or problems, brands will use digital agents to maintain an ongoing dialogue tailored to each person's needs, from curated purchase recommendations to real-time support. We're also going to replace clunky forms with natural interaction. And the relationship will shift from a set of one-off transactions to a continuous, seamless, everyday connection. And here at Medallia, we are incredibly excited to lead this shift. As you saw, we are already building the technology that will power the vision of turning every interaction into a meaningful conversational experience, one that will completely redefine the relationship between brands and the customers they serve. The future experience management has never looked brighter. I want to thank the incredible product and engineering teams here at Medallia for their tireless work in making this technology possible. Let's please give them a hand. And to you, our customers and partners here today, thank you for being on this journey with us. You are the true change makers. Give yourselves a hand too. And as it mentioned, there's no better way, time, or start than right now, this week here at Experience. Attend the breakout sessions to hear from amazing brands sharing tactical takeaways. You can use those immediately. Visit the exhibit hall for demos of the exciting new innovation I shared today, or to see how our partners can help. Use this time to get inspired and take a step into action, because the next era of experience isn't coming. It is already here. I know that each one of you has what it takes to transform your business. Join us back here at 4:15 p.m. You're going to hear from real change makers in action at Shipt, Hyatt, Maersk, Toyota Financial Services, and others. Thank you, and I hope you have a fantastic experience.